Welcome back to Forgotten Hollywood. If you've taken a look at some of my past videos, you might have noticed that I have a soft spot for westerns, particularly TV westerns. I have quite the collection. And this is just one season of each. Some of these I have the entire series. But I just like the simplicity of the plot and style. You have the hero who protects the innocent, villains who are purely villains, a small town living in fear, the hero who comes riding in. It's a tried and true formula and easily adapted to a modern setting. This is where we get Dirty Harry, the A Team, and the Equalizer. First off, I want to say how happy I was to see that the one man army isn't dead, something I was kind of afraid of after so many reboots incorporated teams to replace heroes. Men like James Bond, John Matrix, Marion Corbetti, John McClane, MacGyver, and John Wick were all able to take on problems where they were vastly outnumbered and still came out on top. Joining their ranks in 2014 was Denzel Washington's avenging angel, Robert McCall. The first movie in the franchise, The Equalizer, introduced audiences to this shady figure. His background is never fully explained, and it's slightly contradicted over the three movies, but his skills are put on full display about halfway through movie one. I would like to note that the director has a talent of knowing what to show and what to skip. In a character driven action movie, you don't need to see every punch. One of my favorite scenes involves a friend of his that was robbed of something very special to her. Robert wasn't able to save her in the moment, but later she finds the item waiting for her and the camera cuts to our secret hero wiping off a hammer. Audiences can decide for themselves what happened there. While he handles side missions, such as that thief, every film has a big bad guy. In this first one, it's not just a bad guy, it's the Russian mafia. Like with many Western heroes, Robert didn't seek out to do this, but he saw someone in trouble and stepped up to help best he could. Did I mention that every film in this series is rated R? The real vulgarity in the film is combined to the bad guys, but it is a bit much at times and made me want Robert to snap and start taking people out. The second film in the franchise, Equalizer 2, showed us three things. The first is that Boston is big enough that moving neighborhoods allowed Robert to stay in town even after the events of the last movie without any of that coming back to haunt him. This was mostly due to the fact that anyone who saw what he could do and lived knew better than to say anything. The second is a little bit more about the background for him and his wife, namely where they used to live, what she did for a living. And the third is that it is still a very bad idea to hurt people he considers his friends. It also shows that there are lines that one can cross where he won't even give you a chance to make it right. But he will still warn you before he kills you so that you have time to put your affairs in order. I will say that this film is the weakest of the three. Some people I've heard blame it on the bad CGI, but it's used sparingly enough that that didn't actually bother me. No, what I think the biggest issue in this movie is the big bad. On paper, professional assassins should have been at least as dangerous as the mobsters in movie one. But they just weren't. Were they dangerous? Yes, in the same way that a Doberman is dangerous. However, when Robert took on a metaphorical bear in the first movie, even a big dog isn't that impressive. This brings us to the third and final chapter of Robert's saga, Equalizer 3. It seems the filmmakers learned from the last film and brought this one much closer to the first in the series. Once again, Robert finds himself in a position where someone he cares about is being threatened by mobsters, Italian this time. As always, he tries to mind his own business as long as possible and only steps in when he's absolutely needed. But when that happens, he comes down like a hammer. A sledgehammer. The violence level is higher on both sides of Robert and the mob. Innocent death is shown on screen, but even that is done with restraint. There is cursing, although it's mostly in Italian and shown through subtitles, so easily missed. The one thing that made this harder to watch for me compared to the other two was the inclusion of children and families under threat. Previously, the youngest person at risk was a teenager. That can still be intense, but seeing a gun pointed at the head of a little girl who looks no older than 7, that brings things to a neat level. And that's not even the worst thing that they do. It's little wonder that Robert intervened. There is one weak point, and that's Dakota Fanning's character, Agent Collins. I felt like they were trying to take the character in two directions, and that just made things awkward. They start out with this rookie agent who has a massive case dropped in her lap. On one hand, you can tell that she wasn't really ready for a major field assignment and was taking all the tips and advice Robert offered and running with it. On the other hand, they were trying to make her She Hulk. The girl sits down to interrogate this massive man who not only is a career criminal, but one who knows that he is protected from prosecution. And still, we are supposed to believe that Collins can make him talk? Sure. Well, if she's at it, she can convince Dracula to go vegan. Had they gone with the rookie agent angle and didn't try to portray her as more than that, it probably would have been fine. Robert makes a great mentor. If their goal was a strong female character, I'm sorry to say it was just miscast. Overall, Equalizer 3 is an enjoyable film as far as violent action movies are concerned. I think I like the first one better, but that's because the innocents involved were all adults, or at the very least late teens, early 20s. If you're not into gore and violence, then this is definitely a movie to skip. But if your favorite movies happen to include Die Hard, Cobra, or Death Wish, give it a shot. You won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. What are your thoughts on the Equalizer movies? Do you plan to see the third one, or have you decided to pass on all three? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the bell for notifications, and I will catch up with you next time.